welcome to Current Condition, your new favorite show that talks about what's happening in the world right now, thus the name Current Condition. I am Bethany Rue. I am joined, as always, by Allegheny County at-large council member Bethany Hallam. And today we have a very special guest. I'm very excited to welcome Ciora Thomas, the founder and executive director of SisTers PGH. Welcome to both of you. Hello.
Hello.
Great to be here.
So real quick, I want to kick off the conversation. We're going to have a lot to talk about today. And Ciora, I'm just ecstatic that you're here because I know we're going to have a lot of great conversations. I want to kick it off talking about something that happened yesterday. There were 3 primaries, one in Kentucky, one in North Carolina, and one in New York. Kentucky was particularly interesting for me because, Bethany, they did what we did in terms of they dropped their polling locations down substantially. They actually went from 3,200 polling places to fewer than 200, and actually their 2 biggest cities, Louisville and Lexington, each only had 1. They had very few problems reported. They only had, I think Louisville is the only one that they had to get an injunction to stay open, like to let some people vote. Interestingly, they had 1 location, but it was their expo center. Yeah. So like hundreds of people could safely socially distance vote at a time. But it brought up the point that they're preparing now, COVID spiking everywhere, as we all know, we're seeing it everywhere. This could be a reality for the fall and how we vote as well. And so from your perch on the Board of Elections, what are the conversations you've been having? How far in advance are you going to get in front of this? Do you think that this is how we're going to be voting, how we did in our primary come this fall?
I sure as hell hope not, first of all. And also, I want to start off by I disagree that there were not issues, especially in Kentucky. Jefferson County is where you're referencing. So the polls in Kentucky are open from 6 a.m. till 6 p.m., which you can just think logistically why that's bad in the first place, right? And so what they did was in Jefferson County, the kid there, Charles Booker, he actually filed an injunction to keep the polls in Jefferson County open till 9 p.m. They have almost 700,000 people in Jefferson County, Kentucky, and they had, like you said, 1 polling location. So for all that I complained about with the polling place consolidation plan in Allegheny County, 700,000 voters in 1 polling place. I don't care if it's an expo mart. I don't care if you do it at Kennywood. I don't care where it's at. To me, it's still a problem, right? So I actually, and Jake, maybe you can show this on the screen, but I actually have a clip of people banging on the door. So they closed the polls at 6 p.m. like they were supposed to. And then at 6:30, people were standing at the door banging on it after the injunction was granted to keep the polls open until 9 p.m. So they eventually opened it. And, we won't have any real results because of mail-in voting and things like that, but absentee votes. So anyways, I disagree that it went smoothly, but I think it's important that we just talk about, again, and I cannot say this enough, without voting, we do not have a democracy. And so without giving people access to voting, we cannot expect people to participate in our democracy. We hear about voting, shaming people for not voting all the time. But when we see lines like we saw in our primary here in Penn Hills and in Highland Park, where folks had to wait in line for over an hour just to cast a vote in a primary, and you're telling me that that's supposed to instill confidence that we're going to be okay in the general, where we had 42% turnout here in the primary, and we're hoping, expecting around 75% turnout in the general. So luckily, there is no polling place consolidation as of now that's allowed for the general. So everyone who's watching this, as of now, you are to return to your original polling location where you voted last year and every year before that in the general. So I'm hoping that helps, that instead of 147 locations, we go back to the 1323 that we're supposed to have. But we had a Board of Elections meeting on Monday where we certified the election results from the primary. And I asked a bunch of questions because I saw a lot of things go wrong. I'm sure everyone who's here, everyone who's watching, had a friend who didn't get their mail-in ballot, or who didn't know that their polling place was changed, or was marked as voted when they went to the poll and they really weren't. And so there's just a lot of issues that we need to address, as opposed to just saying, oh, don't worry, we're not consolidating, we'll have plenty of poll workers. So some comfort that I take is the fact that we are starting to recruit poll workers and contact polling locations in July, as opposed to waiting till a month prior to the election to try to do that. So as of now, there will be no polling place consolidation plan. You will be voting at your original location, barring a few places that don't want folks there because of COVID concerns, which is also understandable. But I do very much plan to introduce a resolution to send everyone in Allegheny County a mail-in ballot application like we did in the primary. We're fighting really hard to get drop boxes throughout the county, especially in our underserved neighborhoods where historically we don't see high turnout numbers, and hopefully at every polling location, because anything we can do to access the vote is muy bueno in my book.
Okay, so, well, you know, you brought up another point too with all the mail-in ballots. It's taking longer to get results. I'm really interested to see how this Charles Booker, Amy McGrath race sort of, I was looking this morning to see if I could find anything online. I didn't see anything, so it'll be interesting to see what happened with that case. But thank you for that update. And perhaps when I said things went well in Kentucky, I was overstating a
You
tad.
just like the governor. You have thing for their governor. You're just being
better,
nice.
better than Georgia. How about that?
Yeah.
So you said something very, very true. Voting is an essential part of a democracy. Without it, we have nothing. And but it's not easy for everybody to vote, right? So we'll have issues for a multitude of reasons. So Ciora, from your perch, you know, what are some issues that you see in the LGBTQ I+ community, and what are some of the things you're hearing about some issues that people have voting that really want to get out there and vote?
I know I'm really noticing, and it's been happening, or conversations have been happening around this a lot, having electable candidates that actually are going to be constituents that, or be electorals that are going to be there for their constituents and all of their constituents. When we look at it on a lens of, because within our LGBTQIA spectrum plus spectrum, there are still marginalized communities within that spectrum. So including trans people. So trans people may have a different outlook than our LGBTQ cis siblings within that spectrum. But a lot of times we are also gaslit for not wanting to conform to conformity of choosing the worst out of the two, or you know, getting in that whole rat race. So a lot of those conversations have been happening. I respect everyone's views on, you know, whatever they want to do. I don't judge anybody on, you know, what they want to do as far as voting. I do understand the importance of voting, but I also understand the importance of having candidates that actually are here to serve our entire LGBTQIA+ community. So that's what I'm hearing. That's where I'm standing. With things, if we want to have an intersectional leadership type of vibe going on, we need to start really thinking like that. And our elected officials need to be saying, our names need to be mentioning trans communities, need to be mentioning LGBTQ communities, and being involved in the communities as well. So, yeah.
And I think that's a great point, Ciora, because that's something that I think really bothers me, is that we have all these really complacent elected officials who have been in office for 20, 30, 40 years, and no one has ever ran against them. They thought it was too much of an uphill battle. How am I going to raise the money? Who's going to support me? Well, we are seeing, I mean, we've seen it here locally. We've seen longtime incumbents being taken out by challengers to the left. We've seen I don't know if you were following what happened in New York last night, but the first two Black gay men were elected to Congress, won their primaries in Congress, and that was huge. And they both ran to the left of long-term Democratic incumbents in New York. And so, to me, I love seeing that. I think what we are lacking more than anything else is representation when we talk about our elected officials. And it's a lot easier to trust an elected official to represent us when they look like you, or when they act like you, or when they come from the same background as you do. And I know that when I ran, it was like, oh, who's this girl telling this wild story about her life? Like, I can relate to that, and I've never had someone I could relate to before. And I know I think about you all the time when we're talking about candidates talking about running next year. I hope that that's something that is on your plate, because at least yeah, I mean, I will do whatever I can to do that, because we really...
She just called you out. That's rude, Bethany.
She did.
I think that's so important, you know, when we have leaders in our community who are doing so much great work, like, let's take it to the next level. I could sit here and 20 people just locally who have been in office for forever. Nobody's ever even thought about challenging them, and they got to go. And so we have so many opportunities, and I think it is our job as members of the community to lift up those folks and tell them, if you run for office, we've got your back, and we will support you, and we will help you, because that is a big component. You can ask somebody to run for office, but unless you're going to help them do so, it's kind of just talking, you know?
Well, let's talk for a minute about what Ciora is doing now. and if she does run for office, people, you heard it here first. But so SisTers PGH is an incredibly important organization. And if some of our viewers or listeners haven't heard of it before, Ciora, could you talk just for a few minutes about the organization, what it does, and how it helps in the community?
Yeah. So I started SisTers PGH, or founded SisTers PGH in 2013. I was a young trans woman who was suffering from homelessness, drug addiction, all types of things that was going on in my life that I needed to, do to sustain and try to live and mask and all types of things. But I decided that no one's really going to give us what we need to get out of marginalization if it's not us. I've experienced and ran through programs in Pittsburgh that did not benefit me in a beneficial way, a long-lasting beneficial way. And I was tired of our communities are worth more than $20 gift cards. We're worth more than a pizza party on a Friday night. And that's it. And we're back out there on the streets. So I created SisTers. At first it was just a support group, and I understood that we need more than that. And to this day, after years and years and years and years of trying to make this happen, it happened. We now have a community center in Swissville, and it's a trans and non-binary exclusive center where trans and non-binary people can come receive services like mental health support, medical support. We're going to be having groups. We have several programs within our organization. Brothers PGH, which caters to our trans masculine siblings in Pittsburgh, Allegheny County. SisTers PGH, we are having these virtual support groups as well because of COVID. And just continuing to navigate through COVID. I wish we were open. I really wish we were open. But we got to protect our own. We got to protect our community. So that's what our community center will be primarily. There's a lot more we'll be doing at that center, but I don't want to take up all the time.
Take as much as you need. You're fine. We try to keep it at 30 minutes, but if we go over, it's not a big deal.
I'll start rambling. Don't tell me.
Okay, maybe I shouldn't have done that. I take it back. I also want to let people know that, obviously this is a nonprofit organization, and you can go online anytime to SisTers PGH. Oh, I have the website pulled up right here.
It is www.sisterspgh.org.
There you go. So at any point that you are motivated to get up and give a few dollars, please do, so they can keep doing the great work that they're doing.
Okay.
No, go ahead. What were you going to say?
Yeah, I was going to add to it because I don't know how, but it skipped my brain. So in October, we finally, as an organization outside of our community center, we purchased a home. And with this home, we are going to be able to implement our new program, Project T. And this is a housing program for homeless, trans, and non-binary people in Pittsburgh to be able to utilize this service and transition into their own permanent housing when they're leaving the space. So we have programming set up. We had some construction going that should be done in 2 more weeks. It had to be stopped because of the pandemic, but that'll be done in a few weeks, and we'll be able to start accepting people on our applications hopefully in the next month because we already have a list of folks that need a place to live. So yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, that's so amazing. I mean, you're obviously a very fierce advocate, and you're a great leader as well. Which kind of leads me to my next sort of question, which I wanted to check in with you to see how the Mayor's Advisory Council work was going. I know Pittsburgh Current, actually we ran a story last year. I know there were some communication issues. I know that there was some communication issues, and some non-funding issues. So how that was, I think, June of last year. So it's been a year. How's it going?
So,
we won't tell anybody. You can tell us.
Oh yeah. So as far as our council members are doing amazing things in the community. I'm very, very thankful to serve alongside those that are still on the council and doing work within the community, because they are vital and important. As far as the leadership of the of council, it's still been very lacking. I found that when I became the president or the chair of the advisory council, the mayor became very distant with me. I don't know if that is because I was Black, if it because I was a woman, if it because I was a Black trans woman, but I noticed him meeting with everyone else in the city of Pittsburgh, sitting down with all different types of organizations in the city of Pittsburgh, doing Zoom calls with all of them. When it came down to his advisory council, he left us in the shadows, even more so as we moved to create this commission that myself and other council folks put in the work to create legislation, run through legislation to make sure that the commission would be in good standing. We partnered with different commissions in the city of Pittsburgh to help with that legislation, and built great relationships with other commissions as council members. I'm disappointed. I'm angry. I wished, since joining the council in 2016, since it started, and being a member since the beginning, and seeing our council members do great work, but the leadership just not have our backs like they should. So that's why I am glad that this is moving into a commission where it'll have its own reign of what it needs to do for the city of Pittsburgh. Whether I'm on that commission or whether I'm not on the commission. I hope that it will be something that can really provide sustenance for our LGBTQI communities of Pittsburgh.
Yeah, well, I believe he should definitely, in his administration, should definitely be having conversations with you.
Yeah, and our council members deserve, all the council members from 2016 to 2020 deserve to be recognized. They deserve to be recognized for their work that they put into the council. And this is something that I have been fighting for since day one. More so as the council started to resolve, as it's resolving. Like we all need to be recognized for the work that we have been putting into this city, and not excluded. Even WPXI did a story recently about the commission changing, and they completely erased the advisory council, the advisory council's members, the advisory council's work that we put into making this commission, and it's heart-wrenching. All the council members felt it. We communicate, we email each other, and we all felt it, and it's disrespectful. So
yeah, it's almost like it was set up to fail, and that's with all the hard work everybody's put in. That's sort of disheartening. Yeah. I will say you do have a webpage on the city website, and I'm sure you probably won't be shocked here. There's 3 photos on it, and they're all white.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah,
of course. Yes,
so
yes.
I noticed that. I told Bethany that this morning when I was prepping for this. I was sadly not shocked, but that's the type of things. That's why it's so important to bring in all these different voices and people and talk to them and listen to them.
Right. And what we need in this commission, the commission does not need to be another body of white cis gay men. It does not need to be that. The commission also needs to look like our community. It needs to look like where we live. And it needs to have the people on it that have the experience, from not only professional experience, but that my dog is like doing the most.
Oh, the dog's shut up.
But lived experience as well. So yeah.
Now, Bethany, this is probably the longest you've been quiet since we started this show.
I'm learning.
I'm proud of you. Proud of you. I'm sure if you had anything to add, it would be that you also wish that the city was taking the council a little bit more seriously and into advisement.
Yeah, and definitely, and expanding it to countywide, why are we limiting a commission to just the city. Like I'm one of the people that likes to look at things that are already in the works and figure out how we can expand it more, as opposed to just starting everything from the ground up. So I think that it's important that at the county level, we look at what's happening in the city and what is not happening with the commission, and what can we change, and how can we make it better and implement it on the county-wide scale. Because I know Ciora and SisTers PGH aren't limited to the city. They're all over all over Western Pennsylvania, and the services are available for folks who need it everywhere. Well, what can we do at the county level to make sure that the work that's being done is expanded?
Well, I talked to.
No, go ahead, Ciora. Go ahead.
I actually have been talking to Liv about having, what would it look like for the county to have an advisory council, an LGBTQI advisory council, or a commission, and what that looks like, what that would mean. I certainly, my opinion, certainly think that's needed. I certainly think now that the model of this 2016 to 2020 advisory council has happened, and now you can gain and garnish the experiences of council members throughout the years to tailor an advisory council or whatever you would have for the county. I think that would be very, very important. I think that would be a huge thing, being that it's divided like that with the city and county. So I think that would be very, very helpful.
Yeah, and I've noticed that with a lot of things that the city does, it takes the county a decade or so to catch up. So now that we have new folks on council, there's no excuse anymore. We don't have to wait a decade to catch up to work that the city's doing. Like in some situations, why don't we lead it? Why don't we pave the way at the county level and open it up to everyone? So I agree.
Transitioning now to some of the things that, COVID has obviously impacted a lot of things, like everything, literally everything. That's why we are doing this on a Zoom and not all sitting in a room together, hanging out, having coffee and talking. So this is Pride Month, and I know that SisTers PGH has the People's Pride, and I wanted to talk about how, I obviously couldn't be held this month because of restrictions on events and large gatherings, but you got it rock and rolling off for October, Ciora. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that. What's going on? How can people get involved? Help? What are we looking forward to come October?
Yeah. So, COVID came and we had things planned. We were like paying for things already. And then we had to like literally jump back to the blueprint and start like changing things. And where we are at now is we're still going to be on October 9th through October 11th is going to be our Pride weekend. Pride. And what we did on October 9th, we're going to have our traditional self-care day. And what that's going to look like, it's going to be virtual. And that's going to look like instructors doing yoga, instructors dancing, instructors doing all types of things people can be involved with virtually. That is just self-care, just to chill, like don't do much, like just relax and take in this day to really care about you. We want to also be able to mail some self-care kits out to those who register for that first day, and get them like some, like some cute stuff that can, some self-care scents and all types of stuff folks can benefit from on that day. On Saturday was going to be our Pittsburgh's Best award ceremony, and it was going to be so fab. We were going to be at the Omni Hotel, like it was the ambiance going to be so great. Like it was just, but we had to take that virtual, just and make sure everyone's safe. But we have an amazing. I really don't want to give her up right now, but we have an amazing host who is going to be hosting the award ceremony. I will give that she,
Drop in a clue. Go ahead, I'm listening.
She's one of our lovely ladies from the cast of Pose. And she is going to be joining us on this virtual Pittsburgh's Best Award ceremony. So also please, go to our website, go to our Facebook page to nominate your Pittsburgh's LGBTQIA Best There's an array of nomination list that you can choose from. And yeah, please get that in so we can get all that set up. We're still learning this virtual world stuff, so, but it's coming along. On Sunday, and yeah, so that's Saturday. On Sunday, we're doing our traditional, well, it's not a march anymore, it's a protest. And we changed our, original parade into a protest in response to Black Lives Matter, but in more so response to Black Trans Lives Matter. Because during this time, we are still losing Black trans women to violence, Black trans men to violence, Black non-binary folk to violence, being killed by the police, being killed by civilians. And it was so important that we use this, like other prides around the country have been transitioning into a protest in support of these events. So we're going to do our traditional protest, and it's going to be centering the lives of Black trans lives within this movement, and making sure that we are creating spaces that are truly intersectional, and that other communities within the communities we live in can understand the importance of protecting our siblings throughout it all. No matter what's going on, we must protect Black trans people and Black non-binary people too, during these protests, because we're out there doing the work all the time. And it's the least that could be done is to protect our lives and make sure that we can still live and thrive within communities. So we'll have our protest that day. Then we're going to have a virtual music festival. And with this music festival, it's going to be like a virtual world. We're going to have a couple of different platforms. I mean, it's still in the works, but the virtual world is going to be where our vendors can be at. And everyone who registers for People's Pride will be able to take advantage of this platform. And our constituents, those who visit People's Pride, can go into this virtual world and navigate around and check out the different organizations that are either sponsors or vendors for People's Pride. And it worked out really good too. At our last meeting, we were like, we have a lot of people that visit People's Pride. But imagine how many people around the country can now visit People's Pride, because we have this virtual world now. And how we can do this in the future too, to invite, like even when we're outside, we can invite others from around the country to People's Pride, to be able to see these great organizations that are doing amazing work in Pittsburgh, and to be able to share that information. And the organizations that are going to be vendors and sponsors are going to be able to be seen by thousands, hundreds of thousands, who knows, of people, so that they're able to get their cups poured into as well. So I think this whole COVID experience really put us in a position to have something sustainable for the future as well, like different types of things going on, because we're not celebrating. Our Pride is not a white twink party. That's not what we're doing. We're actually like liberating our communities with legislation, liberating our communities with leaders in our community that are doing the work, with elected officials, with those that are truly here to make sure that bills get lifted off the floor, like truly, like those type of comrades within our spaces. So that's what we're looking for. We need to get that the transgender defense ban that is going on, that has been sitting, that we're highlighting how that needs to be brought to attention. There are elected officials that have been pushing for that, and we need to be able to support that, so these hate crimes are not just done in vain. So
you brought up an interesting point. The silver lining to this, I believe me, as an events person, I understand the heartbreak of having all this like so far on the road, and then you got to pivot and pull it all back. But you are able to reach so many more people now. Do you think moving forward, hopefully when this COVID is all gone, hopefully it will be gone at some point, do you think that future People's Prize events might be like a mishmash, a little bit of both, so keeping some of these elements but also still doing like a here in Pittsburgh sort of thing?
Yeah, I think it'll definitely still be utilizing like the virtual platform to invite people who aren't able to get to Pittsburgh, because we have people that travel from around the country that come to Pittsburgh for People's Pride. So having that, and but then having that extra piece where people can just, log into an app and they can, visit the space. And our headliner this year is a Black trans woman. She's an amazing artist. I'm not giving her name up
You are
either.
cool. This is the second time you're doing this stuff.
But she's an amazing artist, a powerful advocate, in this world. So I'm excited to have that centering of Black trans artists, Black trans leadership, to really pull that into the forefront. Because Pittsburgh, Allegheny County, they really need to see that. They haven't seen it and seen how it works and seen how we walk. And but we're here to continue to do this work, and we're not going anywhere. So it's like, let's just move forward. And yeah.
Well, so Bethany, have you been using this time to Google the cast of Pose so we could throw out who we think it is?
Are we gonna start guessing? I don't think she's gonna. No, but did you see our timer?
No, how are we? Are we over?
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Okay. Well, all right. Well, the last thing that I do want to mention though is that SisTers PGH is also doing an ongoing fundraiser for the impacts of COVID-19 has been having on the community. So there's so many reasons now that you need to go and to check out sisterspgh.org. You need to make sure that you're donating so they can keep doing the amazing work they're doing and help get that house opened up so they can start serving people there. You need to go and vote for your favorite LGBTQIA people for the various award categories, and keep your eye on People's Pride. And Ciora, is there anything else that you'd like to leave the folks with?
No, just thank you to all of those that have been like really riding with our organization through ups and downs, through it all. Like truly thankful for those that have been pouring into our cup and continue to pour into our cup. And yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And Bethany, thank you. And sorry, because I'm on my phone, and people, if you're wondering why I look a little funky, my son broke his iPad, so I'm recording on my phone. So I couldn't see the timer. Sorry we ran over, but it was worth it. This was a great conversation. Ciora, thank you again. Bethany, thank you. We'll see you guys next week. As always, drop some lines in the comments. Let us know what you want to hear us talk about, people you want us to talk with. Have a great night, Pittsburgh and beyond.